Hey everyone, and welcome as we continue our study through the 250 events in the life of Jesus. And we're studying this chronologically through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, what's known as the Gospels. And we're studying it in order as they happen. It helps us give a little bit a better idea of the look at an in-depth look at the ministry of Jesus. And so if you haven't subscribed to our channel, we ask that you do because we're going to put these out daily. It's 5, 10, 15-minute devos into little readings every single day. There's a link in our description if you want to sign up for the study. We have a group chat that we're all part of, and that we take part in, ask questions, and even dive a little bit deeper into the study. But today we're looking at Jesus healing the blind and the mute. And so this was right after, if you yesterday's video that we looked at and reading that we looked at, right? He had raised a little girl from the dead. And so he said in Matthew's account, or this isn't Matthew, sorry. After Jesus left the girl's home, two blind men were following Jesus, shouting, "Son of David, have mercy." And they were just following him, shouting, "Son of David, have mercy." And they went right into the house where he was staying. So they just followed him right into the house where he was saying, and so Jesus said, "Do you believe I can make you see?" I said, "Yes, Lord." They told him, "We do." Then he touched their eyes and said, "Because of your faith, it will happen." And again, this goes back to what we talked about yesterday. It's their faith that is the reason why they're healed. It's our faith is the reason why we're saved. It's our faith in Jesus the reason why we're saved. As soon as he said that, their eyes were opened and they could see. Jesus stirred them, "Don't tell anyone about this." Again, we go back. He's like, "Don't tell anyone." But instead, they went out and spread his fame all over the region. And again, I don't blame him. Like, a lot of people are hard. Feel like, why couldn't they listen to Jesus? If I was blind and some man, touched my eyes and I was healed, I'm going to go tell everyone about that. I'm not keeping that to myself. And so I don't think we can fault them for doing that. And so when they left, after they left, a demon possessed man who couldn't speak was brought to Jesus. And so Jesus cast out the demon, and the man began to speak. And the crowds were amazed. Again, the crowd saw what he was doing. They're amazed. "Nothing like this had ever happened in Israel," they exclaimed. But then here come the Pharisees, right? They're sowing their seed of discord, and said he can cast out demons because he is empowered by the prince of demons. So they were again accrediting his power to the power of the devil. And again, it was they were jealous. He was challenging their power. He was challenging their authority. He'd already talked to them about this, how about the house was divided against itself, couldn't stand, and so I wouldn't be doing this if I was of Satan. So at the beginning of this, we see that they were called the Son of David. And that was a popular way of addressing Jesus as the Messiah, because it was known that the Messiah would be a descendant of David. And so when they're saying "Son of David" here, they are calling him God. And this is the first time we see that title used in Matthew. So this story is only recorded in Matthew, and that's the first time we see Matthew use that. And Jesus didn't respond immediately to these blind men's faith. He wanted to see if they had faith. And that's what Jesus, I think, tests us that way a lot of times, right? It's like, well, Jesus didn't respond, or God didn't respond to me immediately whenever I prayed, or when I asked for something. I think a lot of times he's truly testing our faith to see, hey, is this person really faithful, or are they just looking to be healed? And so Jesus kind of ignored them and walked on. And so, because not all who say they want help really believe that God can help them. And so he was checking to see, can these guys really? Jesus may have waited and questioned these men to emphasize and increase their faith too. It may have been a process. And so that's something we need to make sure we realize, because God may be testing. He may not give us something immediately, because he might want us to say, hey, this is going to help emphasize and increase your faith. And when you think that God is too slow in answering your prayers, consider that he might be testing you, right? Just consider that. I've there's been things I've prayed for a long time that never happened, or it took for a long time for them to come. And I'm a very impatient person. If anyone who knows me, I'm a very impatient person. It's hard for me to wait, but I've had to learn that I need to be patient with Christ. And so we see this, right? And so when you think God's too slow, just remember he might be me testing you, like he did these blind men. And so then again, we see, right? So he heals them. They go on their way. He tells them not to tell anyone. They do, that was kind of the repeated theme in the New Testament. And so they go and do that. And so then we see the demons come around again. So they were especially active in Jesus's time. And though we don't always sure why and how possession occurs, it's something we don't know. And the Bible doesn't write about it and talk about how it occurs. Um, it causes both physical and mental problems. Demon possession causes both physical. In this case, it kept the man from being able to speak. And so we see here that he cast this demon out. The man's able to speak again, and the Pharisees accuse Jesus of four different things right here: blasphemy, befriending outcast, you know, uh, empathy, and serving Satan. And they're always going after Jesus, right? And Matthew shows how Jesus was attacked by them, right? And how we should receive it most gladly. I mean, that's hard, right? But we have to understand Jesus says that we're going to be attacked for our faith. And so we just need it. And so why did the Pharisees do this? Why did the Pharisees always attack Jesus? Why were they always trying to find a way from? One, Jesus bypassed their religious authority. And this is something we need to address, I think, in the church as well, because we have this idea of authority in the church, right? From elders, from, people, pastors and stuff like that. And we look at that wrong, right? And Jesus talks about that, and we're going to look at that. Well, the elders have this authority. No, the elders are supposed to be servants, and they're not supposed to they see themselves as people with authority and power. They're supposed to see themselves like Jesus did, with the ability to serve and help people. Right. And we've kind of flipped that on the head, on its head in the church. And we need to be very careful with that, right? Because that's very Pharisaic, right? Now, I'm not saying that the elders do not have authority in spiritual matters, right? That's shepherding, right? If something's happening that shouldn't be happening, that is shepherding, that is helping people. But it's not, the Bible, the biblical elders, it wasn't set up for you for every little thing to have to be run by the elders, or whether you could do it or not, or can we have this, or they have to, they weren't, what we see in the church today with elders and pastors is not biblical. And I'm not saying that to be mean or to cause problems, but for the most part, it's not biblical, right? One, the eldership was never supposed to be one man trying to run a church, right? Trying to be the head over everything. And two, it wasn't a group of elders to have approval and say over every little thing that happened in the church. That did not happen. That wasn't the setup. And so we need to make sure we get away from that. And we need to view pastorship, and we need to view eldership as a servant role, as someone who is a servant, someone who is there to serve their people and look after their spiritual needs, right? And look for them spiritually and guide them spiritually and be there for them, not someone who's to approve everything from, whether you can put something on a wall, to whether you can buy a coffee pot, to whether you can, do whatever, right? If Jesus came and saw the eldership like that, he would not approve of that, right? And so we need to make sure that we don't become Pharisaic in the way that this looks, because that is not the way that was supposed to be set up. We need to understand that authority is not what we think. We are servants. Pastors and elders, you are servants. You are serving your people. You are not, you are following behind them and helping them move along, not there to approve or disapprove of every little thing they want to do inside the church. And so we need to make sure we get out of that. And I'm sorry I went a little long on that, but I see that in a lot of churches today, and that's not the way it was supposed to be set up, right? He weakened their control over the people, right? If you see elderships, or you see pastors or preachers or people in positions of power in the church, and their main idea is controlling people, you need to be very cautious, because that is a red flag. That's a major red flag. It is, again, it was not about controlling people. If you are told, well, you can't read certain things, or you shouldn't go after certain things, because I came from a part of that, right? Where we were told, like, we were only allowed or encouraged to only read books from people inside our denomination. And we couldn't read outside of it, or we're not supposed to, right? And again, it was about control. It was about controlling the message, controlling the things, right? And keeping people inside of an echo chamber in a bubble. And that's what they were trying to do. So Jesus was challenging their control over people. And so that's the other reason. So we need to make sure, if you see that, that's a red flag, and you need to get away from that. And I'm being serious. You need to get away from something like that. He challenged their cherished beliefs and traditions, right? And this is the other thing. If you see a church that is more focused and more loyal to their traditions than they are the mission of Christ, right? Loving people, those type of things. Again, that's very Pharisaic, and we need to make sure we don't get caught up in that. And in the end, he exposed their insincere motives, right? They were more about power and control. right? They were more about money, power, and control. And unfortunately, we have a lot of that in the church today, right? We're seeing the side effects of that in the church today, right? That's why people are leaving, right? I'm reading a book about this called The Great Dechurching. And since 2020, 40 million people have left the church. And this is part of the reason why. It goes deep into this. And this is part of the reason why people are not seeing, right, the Christ through a lot of these people, especially a lot of people in authority and in power. They're not seeing Christ come through. They're seeing more of a Pharisaic mindset come through. And so they're leaving it. That's like, I don't need to be a part of that, because that's not what I read in the Bible. I read about Jesus in the Bible, and then I look at his church and I see what's going on, and that's not what happened. Now again, it's not all churches, and that's not all people in the church. There's some really awesome, really good people in the church, but overall, this is what we're seeing. The church has become very Pharisaic, and we need to make sure, we need to get rid of that. We need to throw that out, and we need to look at how, I mean, just study the four gospels. It's all we have to do as a church, and we can see this. And so that's to the Christians, right, that's watching this. Non-Christians, if there's any non-Christians watching this, I want you to understand, if you've seen that in Christianity, that's not how it's supposed to be. And so you're seeing a representation of what we're not supposed to be. And the opposite of what we're supposed to. We're not supposed to be about power and authority. We're supposed to be about serving and love and kindness and grace and mercy. And that's what we're supposed to be about. And so the Pharisees did this. They questioned, they debated, they dissected Jesus, right? People were being healed and lives were being changed right in front of them. And again, that's what's supposed to be happening. And I've seen this happen too. I've seen good things happening inside the church. Man, people are like alive. And it gets killed because someone in authority who thinks that some way of doing something that's not even a biblical command, right, is more important than what's going on with these people over here. And so it ends up killing the whole thing, because it's like they dissect the mess out of it and just ignore the whole message of Christ. And so we need to make sure that we do not get caught up in that. And so their skepticism was based on insufficient evidence, or not, it wasn't based on insufficient evidence. It was based on jealousy of Jesus's popularity. And I've seen that happen a lot, right? Someone starts coming up, the people who were in control or in power at the time, they get jealous because that person is either getting a lot of attention, or because of the way they're doing things. And I've seen that. I've seen that multiple times, where they'll either run that person off, or they'll talk bad about that person, or they'll do things like that. And again, we shouldn't be doing this stuff, man. I don't understand that. I mean, I understand it, right? It's human nature sometimes to be jealous of people and to talk bad about people. But as Christians, that's not stuff we should be doing. And so, again, if you've seen that, or if you're doing that, stop, man. Look in the mirror and reevaluate yourself. Why are you doing that? Why are you killing the message? Why are you killing the church by doing things like that? And so if you are, you need to stop. But if you're on the flip side of that and you receive that, just know that that's not how the church is supposed to be. And my encouragement to you is that that's not how the church is supposed to be. So be that, right? Start your own, right? That's another thing, is like, that's part of what we did at Simply Church, right? We just saw some things that we were like, hey, we want to focus here, right? We want to make this simple, and we want to focus on the simple part of just being the church and being like Jesus. And so that's what we're doing. And that's what we're trying to do. We're not perfect. We're still trying to figure this out. Trust me, we're a year and a half in, and we're still trying to figure this out. We're not close to having this perfected, and we never will, right? We're always going to be changing. We're always going to be open to new ideas. But the main thing is we want to show that the love of Christ, the acceptance of Christ, right? The mercy and grace shown by Christ was what was more important than all these other rituals and traditions and things that you would do. And so that's what we want to focus on. And that's what Jesus is focusing on here. But the Pharisees were not. The Pharisees were worried about their power and their control. And we need to make sure we do not get caught up in that. Again, I appreciate everyone for watching, for sticking around and watching these videos. If they're helpful, please share them. Help other people, right? And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so, because we're going to continue to do studies like this. We're going to continue to dive down into the message and do some even deeper studies into some things. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching.